Hello and welcome back to One Last Night. We will not actually be continuing where we left off, we will actually be doing a short story that revolves around Xavier. I believe it's called Birthday. Um, it's actually part of the sort of quality of life update for One Last Night. And the thing I can tell you is that the sprites, particularly Xavier's, have gotten an update. There have been new CGs added to the game. You've seen most of what's already there, but some are not there. Like this one, for example, which is at the very beginning of the story. But that's about it. There's two other CGs, but I don't want to show them because you can see stuff. But yeah, so we'll actually be doing the birthday short story, which again revolves around Xavier. And if I recall correctly, eventually they will be adding more. And if you're a Patreon, you'll actually be able to vote as to what short stories get worked on first. So for now there's birthday, but eventually I think this month you get to vote on which other story they add next or make or whatever. So yeah, so if you want to support One Last Night, um and also dictate the short stories, well, not dictate, but at least have a say in it, do so by going to their Patreon, which will be linked down in the description. But anyways, yeah, let's do birthday. Beep beep beep. Ugh, 5 more minutes. Beep beep beep. I flutter my eyes open to the sound, ready to turn off whatever decided to wake me today. I catch sight of my alarm clock, but it's not ringing. With a groan, I sit up myself to look for the source before catching the soft blue glow of my phone screen on the nightstand. I reach out and silence it, turning the screen off before taking a moment to process why it had energy after dying last night. Shit. I must have forgotten to unplug it before I fell asleep last night. Instead, I did so now with a huff of disappointment in myself. That done, I climbed back into my bunk to get some more rest before my alarm rung for the day. I close my eyes and begin to slowly drift off once more. As if on cue, the clock lets out a daily wake-up alarm and ruins any other chances of sleep. I sigh and sit up properly, preparing for the day ahead that's to come. There's a whole lot of hoping ahead of me, and a schedule helps to keep me busy and holding onto it. It was much easier to be a morning person when I had a sunrise and a view to greet me, rather than the soft glow of the bunker lights. After a few months of that, you really miss natural light. Hell, you miss everything about the outside world. Being trapped in one place for so long was enough to drive anyone crazy. It almost made me want to try the busted hatch again in hopes that I could see out from it, but I knew that was of no use. I still had no way of knowing what happened to the outside world. All internet and phone services had been cut off since the start of it all. I hoped that whenever a team came to rescue me, there was still a world out there to greet me. That is, if the rescue ever comes. Which it would. Probably. Now, wasn't the time to worry though. I'd set a schedule for myself, with some parental advice, and I was going to stick to it. If I keep busy, I wouldn't be driving myself up the wall with anxiety over what was next. With a schedule as well, I knew what was to come for the rest of the day. As little as it may have been, it had kept me from going insane thus far. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, which is why I added a little variety to each day as well. I would cycle through chores on different days, as well as allow myself a day off every once so often. Factor in the abundance of other activities at my fingertips, and I was set with enough variety to help my sanity. As I rinsed my mouth from brushing my teeth, I took a moment to look at myself in the mirror with my outfit for the day. Wednesdays were for black crop tops and jeans. Since I wasn't out with my parents, I could at least express my identity through my clothing. I had a few different outfits that I cycled through, but one piece of clothing stayed with me for each one. I brought a hand up to my chest to rub the fabric of my pink bandana, drawing comfort from the texture. It was the last present Grandma had given me before she passed. I smiled at the fond memories of her, of how even though I was a child, it felt like she understood me better than anyone had. I missed her. Shaking off the sadness, I focused on my reflection once more. Another day in paradise, Xavier. Help will come, but until then, it's time for you to make the most of it. I exited the bedroom at last, and made my way out to the common room. If I wasn't already used to the dim lighting, I was sure I'd have stubbed my toe by now. I browsed the shelves for canned goods, searching for whichever soup would best suit the Wednesday mood. Going about breakfast, I caught my dad sitting at the table out of the corner of my eye. He had his usual instant coffee in his hands, casually sipping at it as he woke up as well. Morning, Dad. How'd you sleep? My voice didn't seem to faze him as he drank from the mug. Right, no talking until after your first coffee. Enjoy then. I rushed to heat up my soup on the small electric stove that we kept in the kitchen, but by the time that I sat down to eat, he was already gone. This was typical of him and Mom, honestly. I barely got to see them before any of this, so why would that change now, right? I hoped to talk with him for a little while at least. With half an appetite, I ate, drinking down a fair amount and saving the rest for later. I needed the energy for when I would be rescued, but I also needed to ration until the day would come. I was glad for the luxuries my parents had put into the bunker. There were a variety of things to keep me busy and living well enough. The common area had a proper kitchen, equipped with various pots and pans, cutlery, and dried spices. There had been a greater selection of food in the earlier weeks. It was important to use that up before it all went bad. Unfortunately, that meant by now it was all from canned options. Without the seasonings, the food would have no doubt gotten repetitive fast. Aside from sustenance, there were plenty of board games and books for me to choose from. Dad liked to collect older copies of things, so not all of it was necessarily up to date. Not many electronics, though. I was fairly certain my parents had stashed a computer down here, somewhere, but I had yet to find it. They wouldn't tell me when I asked either. I must have already read everything that we had down here by now. My love of literature, my most frequent time killer for the day. I considered continuing where I left off in my current reread, but decided evening was a better time to do it. Chores weren't the most exciting thing to start off a day with, but getting them out of the way first meant that I didn't have to worry about them later. And done. I sat at the coffee table with a huff of relief, happy to have completed my most hated chores first. The dishes were cleaned, the floor swept, and the surfaces dusted. It had taken a good 2 hours out of my day. I'd reveled in it, grateful for the passing time. Having to do these tasks every other day helped keep them shorter overall, meaning it wasn't an even longer process to do as had been growing up. Only task left now was to head to the greenhouse. Growing plants underground required a lot of energy and resources, but it meant that there was a renewable oxygen source without having to worry about tainted surface air leaking in. Though, in the case of emergencies like a power outage, an automated system would switch the vents on to allow for air as the plants would begin to die fast in the dark. As if to accentuate this, the dim lighting began to flicker. It'd been doing that for a lot recently, which is why I'd set up all bunker lights except the greenhouse to a low setting to save power. I'd also unplugged most electronics from their outlets and kept only a few essentials charged. I had no idea whether we were running out faster than normal, but I kept all the candles and lanterns in easy reach to reach places just in case. Luckily, my parents bought plenty for that exact scenario. The humidity was thick on my fur as I entered the greenhouse, making me uncomfortable as I began to dampen. I was glad today was a crop top day. Filling up a watering can, I set up about taking care of the individual plants. A majority were basic house plants, with flowers scattered throughout to add some color to the greenery. Admiring a group of pink orchids in the mix was also where I found my mom. She loves to take her time down here frequently. her love of plants sticking with her even in close captivity. Hey, Mom. Enjoying the day so far? She nodded, not taking her eyes off the flowers. That's good. Actually, I was wondering, do you think that three of us could play a board game later? We haven't been able to try them all yet. Her smile grew a bit before she nodded again, straightening herself up and walking to the exit. I miss spending time like that with them so much. Maybe this whole silent treatment thing would come to an end soon, too. I was growing tired of my own voice. Humming a melody as I worked, I thought over the games. Cards weren't technically a board game, but always fun with the variety it came with. Games that would cause further tension were out of the question, though, so that meant no Monopoly, especially after what happened last time. We never did find all the pieces after that. Maybe something like Mousetrap could work? I knew how much they love hands-on work. Trivia was also a good shout. My passion for learning new things was something that I'd inherited from the family. As I finished up the watering, I took comfort in the lack of humidity outside the room. Heat was never really my thing, my neck fur already beginning to puff up. A bath sounded nice about now, but saving it until after finishing that soup and a workout seemed like a better way to save water and stay clean. Parents nowhere in sight. I finished off the soup and cleaned their respective dishes before moving towards my favorite part of the structure. I brightened the lights as I entered the archery hall, not wanting to risk using a weapon in the dark. The targets at the end were covered in holes, and I knew that I'd have to change them again soon. I shut the door behind me and took a deep breath, feeling my muscles loosen and relax. I stretched, eyeing my bow and multitude of arrows. This was always the best part of my day, no matter what. When I was younger, my father had given me a list of defensive activities to choose from. He told me that I needed to be proficient in at least one of them. Archery was the one that I'd picked, and I'd known from the moment that I picked up a bow that it was the right choice. Most bats had the ability to fly, at least partially compared to our feral counterparts. Sadly, I'd unfortunately been born with only one wing. The joy that my family and others felt while soaring through the skies was something that I'd never have. I think that's why archery is a comfort to me. It gives me the ability to stretch my arms out and feel the strength within them without having to worry about my disability. Gently taking the bow off the wall, I feel the familiar texture in my grasp. I notice an anxiety that I didn't realize was there to begin to dwindle. I nock an arrow, aiming carefully at the distant target, drawing in a deep breath. I'm in control. And it flies, once again hitting the brutally punctured center. Bullseye. The soft smile on my face at my success only increases the calm spreading throughout me. Whether rescue is coming or not, whether anxieties fill my chest, no matter what the future holds, I know this. I have a home in archery. My favorite part after bathing and toweling off had to be how fluffy my head forgot. It was soft and fuzzy, perfect to run my fingers through after. My parents used to do it all the time. Speaking of them, however, they are nowhere in sight as I enter the common area and scan the shelves. X marks the spot. I pulled the current book that I was going through off the shelf and sat down at the table, getting ready to relearn and practice my Morse Code skills. There was no telling when this would come in handy. When the rescue shows up, this could be how they are able to communicate with me. I need to be prepared. Most likely their questions will all be yes or no, so it'd be beneficial to practice those words as well as an answer if I don't know how to respond. Unknown is the shortest and most likely term for it that I can think of right now. Simple one words answers will make any communication efficient enough to get things going faster. And I want to be out of here as fast as possible. All right, Xavier. Let's go over potential questions and how best to answer them. You left that page with your notes here somewhere. I opened the book to the front first, trying to see if I left the loose paper there, but only find the handwritten dedication. To Athena and Luther Monroe. A strange congrats on the new baby gift for sure, but useful if he shares your wits. Love. Whatever name had been written there was scribbled out long ago, and I always wonder who had given it to us. Considering the use of love, they have to have been close. I shook my head, snapping myself out of the distraction so that I could go back to work. I really needed to learn how not to get sidetracked so often. I flipped through the book before the folded paper slides out. I'll probably have to create a new one soon, the current version already showing age from being handled so often. I pick it up and grab a pencil to tap out my answers with. Question 1. Is anyone alive down there? Question 2. Are you currently safe? Question 3. Are there any injuries? Question 4. Are there any structural threats if we open the hatch? Question 5. How many are down there? I pause, struggling to remember how the numbers system works in Morse code. Seems like I found my weak spot to study up on. I flip the pages in the book to the index, finding the correct page number, and heading there to study up on. I smack myself on the forehead, chastising myself for forgetting how easy it is to communicate. The numbers go from 1 to 0 and switch out dots and dashes as they go. 1 means a dot followed by 4 dashes. A 2 is 2 dots followed by 3 dashes, and so on until 9 is 4 dashes and 1 dot. 0 is represented by 5 dashes. I remember practicing these on the radio with Dad as a kid. He bought us a pair to communicate across the house for fun. Those early days were full of fond memories. The memories from before they were overprotective. Said radio was later replaced by a phone, since I could then message them whenever they went to work. To say that they worked more than average was an understatement. Janitors work very odd hours. The memory of the notification this morning draws me back to the present, having realized that I never checked what it was for. It doesn't take me long to find it in the bedroom, pressing the on button to show the wallpaper of a cockpit overlooking a sea of clouds. I hope that I can still be a pilot when this is all over. Now, what was the notification for? Oh, it's my birthday. I'm 22 now. My legs begin to feel weak and I fall onto the bed, staring numbly at the words until the screen turns off. It feels like a slap in the face, a tangible reminder of just how long I've been down here. I can feel the tears welling up in my eyes as reality sets in. Month after month, I've waited down here in the hopes of rescue, in hopes of getting out of here, in hopes that just something would go fucking right. All that hope beginning to fade. The room begins to blur as my mind spirals into despair. Everything feels so bleak and meaningless, and I want to break. What am I even supposed to do? I ask myself that, and it triggers a memory to play before my eyes, one of the last that I have of my grandmother. I'd been gifted a Lego playset for my birthday, and I was ecstatic to assemble it. Something in my young mind just loved the challenge of assembling things like it. Except that I was also impatient. I'd ignore the instructions and try to assemble it on my own, putting pieces together in whatever order I thought would be right. No matter how hard I tried, though, it didn't look how it was supposed to. I was on the verge of frustrated tears when Grandma stepped in to help. She asked me what was the matter, and I explained, her listening as attentive as always. When I was done, she simply grabbed the instructions and sat next to me. She told me that sometimes the most obvious answers sat plainly in front of us. If we rushed everything, there was so much that we would miss out on and hinder our experiences. This applied to everything from toys to general life. Patience is a virtue, my little wonderbat. Take things one step at a time. One step at a time. I echoed her words now, wiping the tears from my eyes. I couldn't give up yet, not while there was still a chance that I could get out of here and find them. I just had to take it slowly, a step at a time. And the current next step? Celebrate what was left of my birthday. There weren't exactly any streamers to hang, nor party hats or over the top decorations to help celebrate the start of my next life chapter. I kept it simple instead, managing to find a packet for a mug cake my parents must have hidden from me for an occasion like this. There was no way that I would fit enough candles into the mug like a regular cake, so I grabbed a single birthday candle to light and place on top. My parents were already sitting around the table, waiting for me to come and join them for my celebration. We were all together, something that rarely happened now. Once the microwave beeped, I carefully slid the hot mug out to avoid burning myself and went to set it on the table. As if someone was watching, the moment the dish touched the wood, the lights began to flicker before cutting off entirely. The entire room was plunged into near complete darkness. I was lucky that I had already lit the candles. There was a loud thunk as what I presumed was the shift of the vents opening to let outside air in came from above. I sighed, knowing that this was bound to happen for a while now. I should check the generator just in case. Well, at least the mug cake will have time to cool. I went to slide my phone from my pocket as a soft hiss came from the nearest duct, indicating the surface air beginning to leak in. I turned on the screen and flicked the options down to turn on the built-in flashlight when the panel flickered and the phone shut off entirely. The battery was still in the high 80s, so it made no sense why it would suddenly stop working. Even the power button gave it no signs of life. I tossed it on the table and sighed in defeat, giving up on checking the generator and sitting down. I just wanted one thing to be good for the moment, and the dessert in front of me would have to suffice. Bringing my face out of my hands, I noticed my parents had gotten up and moved to stand behind me. They each set a hand on my shoulders and gestured to the candle. All right, the wish. As per birthday tradition, I had to blow out the candle and make a wish. So many thoughts were running through my head, my brain having a hard time trying to decide on just one. I want to get out of here. I want to see the sun again. I want to fly. I want to be able to eat a fresh apple again. There were so many things that I wanted, it was hard to decide on just one. I wish. But that was a lie. I knew which stood out to me the most, the thing that I wanted more than anything. The desire that had kept me up late on several nights, sometimes leaving me to cry myself to sleep. No matter what had happened in the past, no matter how hard I tried to convince myself that I was okay without them, I knew it wasn't true. There was still that sense of safety that they gave, the sense of comfort that I so desperately needed. The tears welled up in my eyes, threatening to break through the dam that I had constructed in front of them. I took a deep breath, then blew out the candle and whispered my desire quietly into the room. That you were here with me. And the dam broke. And that was the end of birthday. I mean, it was kind of obvious that yeah, he was there by himself. And I think at the beginning it starts off saying that he's alone. That's why he's able to dress how he wants to, but then eventually it switches to, "Oh yeah, my parents are here," because it's him trying to go like, "Hey, yeah, I'm not alone. They're definitely here." you know? So, I don't actually remember how long he was there for. I don't remember if it was just like the year or years. I actually don't remember how long the whole event was for. I also wonder though. I'm assuming that he was down there in the bunker when the whole world ended, which caused the door to shut, which caused it to be unable to open because whatever electronic mechanism that it had basically malfunctioned. The curious thing is, his phone and everything else was still working. So I'm wondering if perhaps the bunker protected anything electronic inside, including the generator, from, getting fried because of the whatever it is that was happening. but over time it just kept whatever it was eventually got into the bunker and caused it to fail. Um, and then as soon as the vents opened, and as soon as like the first wisp of air entered from the outside, it also caused this phone to just, go kaput. Because you would think that if it was like an EMP, like an actual EMP, that it already, it was over. And when the event happened, that tore the scar into the city and released the monsters. Well, not release the monsters. It caused what was happening to happen. So it feels to me that it's more like it's in the air. Because again, as soon as the vent opened and he heard the little wisp of air entering the bunker, his phone just, it died. And because air is air, and if the bunker was not airtight, maybe eventually over time, little bits, particles of air or whatever it is in the air seeped into the bunker and messed with the electronics. Hmm. I guess we'll eventually have to find that out, if at all, when the story concludes, or as the story progresses, I should say. But anyways, so yeah. Thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play One Last Night yourself, you can find it over on itch, and you can find a direct link to it from the One Last Night Twitter page, which I will link down in the description, as I already said, I think. Or was I talking about yeah, I was talking about Patreon. And if you would like to support the project, I will link down their Patreon, which I'm fairly certain they have because they mentioned that on itch. And that allows you to get earlier access to builds of One Last Night, as well as being able to vote on the short stories, which one, they'll do next. That includes, adding the CGs and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, in general, subscribing, even if it's the lowest tiers, which don't grant you access to early builds, it still shows them that, like, hey, I like your visual novel. I don't have that much money, so here's what I have. Keep up the good work. But yeah. Also, I have a coffee in case you want to, donate to me, because, it actually means a lot when I see, like, the notification, like, hey, such and such donated to you. Yay. But yeah, anyways, well, I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.